trapped in the Rockies, my nightmare in the mountains, I had always loved hiking. Growing up in Colorado, the mountains were like a second home. I'd explored them for years, trekking through trails that snaked around hidden valleys, cascading streams, and dense forests. But nothing could have prepared me for what I experienced 2 weeks ago. I was hiking alone, a solo trip, just me and nature. I'd planned it for weeks. The trail I chose was secluded, far from the more popular routes. I wanted peace, isolation. In hindsight, maybe that was my first mistake. It started off fine. The air was crisp, the sky a pale blue, and the mountains stretched out in front of me, welcoming. I was about 5 miles into the trail when I first noticed something felt off. The birds that had been chirping so cheerfully had fallen silent, and the usual rustling of small animals scurrying through the underbrush was gone. I chalked it up to my imagination and pressed on. The further I went, the more unsettling the silence became. Around mile 7, I noticed the forest felt wrong. The trees were taller, the shadows longer, like they were bending in on themselves. I felt watched. You know that prickly feeling on the back of your neck? It wouldn't go away, but I refused to turn back. Stubborn, I told myself it was just nerves. Then I heard a soft crunch of leaves behind me. I whipped around, heart pounding. Nothing. I laughed, trying to calm myself down. "You're just being paranoid," I muttered, but I knew something wasn't right. I kept walking, and the sounds followed me. Every time I stopped, it stopped. Every time I moved, it moved. My skin crawled, and the air grew colder, unnaturally cold for mid-September. I decided to head back, but the trail didn't look the same. I retraced my steps, or at least I thought I was, but nothing looked familiar anymore. The trees seemed to shift, twist in impossible ways, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being led deeper into the wilderness. Panic set in when I stumbled upon the same fallen log for the 3rd time. I had been walking in circles. My phone had no service, and the sun was beginning to set. My heart pounded louder in my ears as the last sliver of light disappeared over the mountains. That's when I saw it. At first, it was just a shadow, something moving at the edge of my vision. Then I heard a low, guttural growl, like something out of a nightmare. My whole body froze, and I forced myself to look toward the noise. It stood between the trees, its eyes reflecting the last bit of twilight. I can't describe it in detail. It was as if my mind refused to fully comprehend what I was seeing. It was tall, hunched over, its limbs too long, too thin, with matted fur and a face that looked more human than animal. Its mouth stretched open, revealing rows of jagged teeth, dripping with something dark. And its eyes, they were intelligent, calculating. I turned and ran. Branches whipped at my face. Thorns tore at my legs, but I didn't stop. The growling grew louder, closer. I could feel its hot breath on my neck. My legs screamed in pain, but adrenaline kept me going. Just as I thought I couldn't run anymore, I tripped, tumbling down a steep hill. My body slammed into rocks and roots until I hit the bottom, dazed and bruised. I scrambled to my feet, gasping for air, and found myself at the mouth of a small cave. Without thinking, I dove inside, pressing myself against the cold, damp walls. The growling stopped, and for a moment, I dared to hope that it had lost me. Then, I saw the bones. Piles of them, scattered across the cave floor. Some were animals, but others ... Others were human. I could hear it outside the cave, sniffing, growling, waiting. I don't know how long I stayed there, curled up in the darkness, trying not to breathe, trying not to exist. Hours passed, maybe days. My mind started to blur the lines between reality and madness. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but wait. Eventually, the growling faded and the air became still again. When I finally crawled out of that cave, the world seemed different, darker, emptier. I was half-starved, delirious, but somehow I made it back to the trailhead. I never reported what happened. Who would believe me? People disappear in the mountains all the time, and no one asks too many questions. But every time I close my eyes, I see it. I feel its eyes on me, waiting, watching.